The Nigerian War, also known as the Biafran War, lasted from July 6, 1967 to January 15. It was fought between the government of Nigeria and the secessionist state of Biafra, resulting in a massive humanitarian crisis and severe famine before Biafra's reintegration into Nigeria. The Federal Republic of Nigeria versus the self-proclaimed Republic of Biafra, and the post-independence ethnic tensions and pogroms against the Igbo people in northern Nigeria, leading the oil-rich eastern region to declare independence. A strict federal blockade caused catastrophic civilian starvation and famine, capturing worldwide media attention and shaping modern international aid. The Congo Wars, 1996 to 2003, devastating regional conflicts involving multiple African nations, triggered by the aftermath of the Rwandan genocide, border instability, and control over rich mineral resources. Protracted fighting involving armed groups that are in a movement, and the military and regional interventions, leading to mass displacement and acute humanitarian crisis. The war that Sudan is currently facing is currently being fought between the Sudan Armed Forces, SAF, and the Rapid Support Forces, RSF. The war broke out due to a vicious power struggle within the country's military leadership. There are clashes between the government army and the paramilitary army called the Rapid Support Forces. The holy sites of Jerusalem houses the Western Wall, holiest site in Judaism, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, holiest site in Christianity, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, Haram al-Sharif, third holiest site in Islam. Competing claims control over these sacred locations has driven centuries of conflict, from ancient Roman sieges and medieval crusades to modern political disputes. Capital statues that Israel captured East Jerusalem from Jordan in the 1967 Six-Day War and views the entire undivided city as its permanent capital. Palestinian aspirations. Palestinians claim East Jerusalem as the capital of a future independent Palestinian state. However, there are status quo violations. Tensions frequently spike over access to holy compounds, government-backed nationalist movements, and changes to the administrative status quo managed by international and regional bodies like Jordan. On February 28, 2026, Israel and the United States began a series of strikes against Iran. They said they aimed to induce regime change and target its nuclear and ballistic missile program. A conditional ceasefire was declared on 8th April. In response to the attack, Iran launched a series of counter-strikes against Israel, U.S. military bases in the region, and military and civilian locations in Arab states, many of which housed U.S. forces. UK bases in Bahrain, Qatar, and Cyprus were attacked, and the RAF was deployed. UK bases in Bahrain, Qatar, and Cyprus were attacked, and the RAF was deployed in a defensive capacity. This briefing sets out US and Israeli statements on their decisions to launch the attacks. The Iranian regime's response, the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and selection of his son as his successor, and UK actions and response to the conflict. This induces information on UK defensive military action, diplomatic initiatives, and UN action and responses within the UK Parliament. The 1962 war, triggered by unresolved border disputes over Aksai Chin and the McMahon Line, alongside fallout from the 1959 Tibetan uprising, culminating in a brief military conflict starting October 20, includes the 1967 Nathu La and Chola clashes along the Sikkim border, where tactical engagement occurred. Diplomatic re-engagement began in the late 1980s, though recent friction points along the line of actual control (LAC) continue to shape bilateral military analysis. The historic World War II Normandy campaign began on D-Day, June 6, 1944, with an amphibious assault of 156,000 Allied troops across 5 beaches. The casualties: over 4,000 Allied deaths on D-Day, with Omaha Beach experiencing the heaviest losses. And the core areas of Congo's military history: Congo Free State and colonial era, 1885 to 1960, brutal forced labor and resource extraction under King Leopold II, followed by Belgian state rule. The Congo Crisis, 1960, post-independence civil unrest, secessionist movements, Katanga, and the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, leading to Mobutu Sese Seko's rise to power. Sparked by a spillover from the Rwandan genocide, Laurent Kabila's forces overthrew dictator Mobutu Sese Seko with backing from Rwanda and Uganda, often called the Great African War, involving multiple neighboring African nations and regional proxy groups fighting over governance and vast mineral wealth. Alongside domestic conflicts, Western Togoland Rebellion 2020, a localized separatist insurrection by the Western Togoland Restoration Front led to security clashes with Ghanaian state forces. ECOWAS interventions: the Ghanaian military has taken part in regional stabilization missions, including operations in the Gambia 2017 and various peacekeeping roles under the Economic Community of West African States (ECOWAS) and the United Nations, such as in Lebanon. Following this, Mali War 2013 to 2017 contributed personnel to international and regional missions addressing the insurgency in Mali. The Ethiopian Civil War 1974 fought between the DERG military JUNTA and anti-government rebels, led to the fall of the DERG regime and Eritrean independence. The Tigray War began in November 2020 between federal forces and the TPLF. The recurrent military coups in West Africa, with the most recent cases in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Nigeria, point to an increasing crisis of trust between citizens and their governments. According to the Corpus 2023 report, military coups have increased significantly across the African continent, indicating the deterioration of democratic systems due to diverse political, social, and economic causes. The major Jamaican conflicts: the First Maroon War, 1728, the Take War, 1760, Second Maroon War, 1795, the Baptist War, 1831, Jamaica's part in the Great War, World War One. The major historical conflicts in the UK are the Hundred Years' War, 1337, the English Civil Wars, 1442, the Wars of the Bruces, 1306. The major conflicts in Ireland are the 9 Years' War, 1594, the Williamite War, 1688, the Irish War of Independence, 1919, the Easter Rising and Revolutionary period. The major Turkish wars are the War of Independence 1918, Russo-Turkish War 1877, Italo-Turkish War 1911. The May 2025 India-Pakistan conflict, often referred to as the 4-Day War, began following an April 2022 and April 22nd terrorist attack in Pahalgam, Kashmir. It led to Indian cross-border strikes under Operation Sindoor on May 7 and a subsequent Pakistani response before a ceasefire was declared. Several public policy groups, defense institutes, and research platforms have published analytical documents and research briefs regarding this military crisis. The Somali Civil War began in 1991 after the overthrow of President Siad Barre, leading to long-term factional fighting and state collapse. The Ogaden War, fought between Somalia and Ethiopia from 1977 over the disputed Ogaden region. In 1864, Paraguay went to war against the Triple Alliance of Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay, the bloodiest and longest interstate war in Latin American history, resulting in a massive loss of Paraguayan population and a shift in regional power to Brazil. The Bible says that we must choose and anoint and accept our appointment by God. 1 Samuel 16:7. God judges the heart, not outward appearance. Acts 13:22. God called David a man after his own heart, faith and strength. 1 Samuel 17:45. David faces Goliath in the name of the Lord. Psalm 144:1. David praises God for training his hands for battle. The Davidic covenant, 2 Samuel 7:12-13. God promises that David's kingdom and throne will last forever. Psalm 144:1. Of David, blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my heart for war and my fingers for battle. Acts 13:22. And when he had removed him, he raised up David to be their king, of whom he testified and said, I have found in David the son of Jesse, a man after my heart, who will do all my will. 1 Kings 1:1-53. Now King David was old and advanced in years, and although they covered him with clothes, he could not get warm. Therefore his servants said to him, Let a young woman be sought for my lord the king, and let her wait on the king and be in his service. Let her lie in your arms, that my lord the king may be warm. So they sought for a beautiful young woman throughout all the territory of Israel, and found Abishag the Shunammite, and brought her to the king. The young woman was very beautiful, and she was of service to the king and attended to him. but the king knew her not. Now Adonijah the son of Haggith exalted himself, saying, I will be king, and he prepared for himself chariots and horsemen, and 50 men to run before him. Romans 13:4. For he is God's servant for your good, but if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain, for he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. Psalm 27, 1-14. Of David, the Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid? When evildoers assail me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and foes, it is they who stumble and fall. Though an army encamped against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war arise against me, yet I will be confident. One thing have I asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. For he will hide me in his shelter. In the day of trouble he will conceal me under the cover of his tent. He will lift me high upon a rock. Psalm 61:2. From the ends of the earth I call to you. I call you as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I,